life of one person who could have been a terror in our community, and now they're doing the right thing. They're on the right track. So, we have to identify, and that's hard. I mean, we're kind of, we get to decide who we think, is worthy of, being given a second chance. But that is the role that the prosecutor plays in the community, and that is why, and it's very true, that the prosecutor is the most powerful position in the criminal justice system. No matter how hard the police work, if you arrest someone, you can bring charges, but those charges don't move forward unless our office says that they will move forward. And in many instances, we do charge, or we do indict if it's in circuit court. We do pursue those prosecutions, but sometimes we say, you know what, we think this person may be eligible for a diversion opportunity. And so we do have a number of diversion opportunities in Prince George's County. And I'm actually working on expanding those opportunities because they work and they keep our community safer and they give deserving people a second chance. And so, safety is my first priority. How we achieve that, we achieve that through many different avenues.
That's great. And I just had one last question for you. And
sure.
The issue of domestic violence continues to raise its ugly head, and I know in the DC area and across the country, you have those, particularly those anomalies where you just hear this horrific thing that happened. Either a parent was abusing a child, or they killed the entire family. Just some horrific thing, and it continues to pop up. What is the strategy of the Prince George's County State's Attorney's Office in terms of prevention and prosecution, but most importantly, victim support?
Yeah, so one of the things we have identified as one of the barriers to our victims really getting justice is really staying the course through the investigation and through the prosecution. One of the issues that has been identified, not just by me, but by others as well, is housing insecurity. People don't leave because they don't have a place to go. A lot of people don't feel comfortable going to a shelter. They don't want their kids in a shelter. And so we have to do a much better job of providing housing options for victims of domestic violence. And so my office is spearheading a movement called the Not One campaign against domestic violence, meaning we're not going to leave one person behind in this fight, and we're going to try to address every single need that person has in order to stay away from their abuser. And so we'll be working with our Prince George's County Council as well as members of our business community to really develop a plan to add more transitional housing, even long-term transitional housing for victims of domestic violence, because we want them to be survivors. And in order to do that, they have to stay the course through the investigation and through the prosecution. And so that's one of the things that my office is working on, and I hope, in a year or so to be able to come back and talk to you about our successes there.
Well, I'm sure that you guys are going to be very successful. Just the things that I've been hearing you talk about today, and of course I have the luxury of seeing your work in the past and seeing your dedication in the community. So I'm very confident that it's going to be successful, just as you have said. And so I know you have to run, Madam State's Attorney, but I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today. This has been an incredible discussion. We've learned a lot of good things, and for our listeners across the country and even internationally, this is just another example of the good things that are going on across the country and around the world. When you look at the proactive things that are going on, it's certainly, I know it's very refreshing for listeners to hear that the prosecutor understands that redemption is an option and that intervention is an option. And so it's not just how many people can I get a life sentence or 25 years, or depending on your age, that is a life sentence. But it's good to see that the prosecutor has a human quality in her process. And I think the residents of Prince George's County are very fortunate. Wouldn't you agree, Thinbat?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's a welcome a welcome attitude to have. Please, and we're thankful for that. So looking forward to continue to hearing great things about what you're doing now, and I'm sure based on a lot of the things that had happened. Just following your track record from before, that I'm sure that we'll be hearing nothing but great things.
So, Madam State's Attorney, again, thank you so much. And look, anytime
thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. And look, anytime you have a few minutes, you're always welcome. Always welcome.
Oh, absolutely.
Indeed.
Absolutely. And when we have new initiatives, I'll give you a call and see if you might be interested in hearing about them.
Oh, we're always interested. So, So listeners, there you have it from the top prosecutor in Prince George's County. We have more hot topics to come, so keep it locked. We'll be right back. Real talk, straight, no chaser. We'll be right back.
What do you wish for? A nice life? Nice things? Or do you wish for something more? A sense of purpose? Do you wish to discover a cure? To write code that cracks an unsolvable question? To further our exploration into space? Or to invent something that changes everything right here on Earth? Well, if that's your wish, make yourself ready. Because when you look back, you'll see that you didn't just make wishes, you realized them.
The path to happiness is not the easy one. But taking drugs will not make it easier. Many people got lost and end up losing their life to drugs. If you or anyone that you know is within that path, don't be afraid to seek for help. Visit www.adk.gov.my for information related to drug abuse. So, know your path. This message is brought to you by the National Anti-Drugs Agency.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Where I wanted to quit, in the back of my mind, I told myself, I have to quit. And just that day when I reached for that cigarette, I'll never forget it, with my son looking at me. And it was like a bolt of lightning hit me, where I finally realized the big picture of what year after year and cigarette after cigarette had done. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I quit. Took him a whole pack, brand new pack. Took him, threw him out the window, and I don't litter. But that's it. I'm done. I quit. It's going to kill me. It's going to be cancer. But I don't have to make it sooner than it needs to be. He was shocked, and he says, I really hope you mean that, Mom.
Let's get back to your girl Aunt BZ, Thin Bad, and the Chief.
Hey, how are you all? Glad you are back with us. If you're just joining us, we just finished talking with State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy from Prince George's County. And crime is something that you can always talk about, because there's always something going on, and it impacts every community in every state. The state's attorney is the top prosecutor or the DA for the county, but they can't do it alone. She can't do it alone in Prince George's County, and your prosecutor, wherever they are, can't do it alone. Wherever you are, can't do it alone either. So you got to get involved. You can't just elect folks. I know we have a tendency to think our job is over after we pull that lever or push that button, but that's actually when the work begins. You gotta stay in there and make sure that you hold folks accountable, make sure that things are happening as they should be, and when they do something right, tell them they do something right. We're quick to jump out there and say something when something's wrong, but when one of your public officials, let me tell you, speaking as a former, as I say, a recovering legislator, it means something when folks tell you, because so many people are in your face all the time, with the bad stuff. And Chief, this too.
Yes, sir.
I know you hear a bunch of bad stuff, but and I'm sure you probably get some good stuff too. There are people who really like police officers, and not everybody thinks that all police officers are bad, and not everybody thinks that all politicians or public servants are crooks. There's some
true.
people who actually believe in what they are trying to do in terms of being a public servant, and what it means to kind of leave this world a little bit better than they found it.
Sure.
So, you got to get involved, though. The community, you got to get involved. Before I ran for office, I kind of got involved in community things. I had a head start because I had a father who was in everything, from the church to the streets to the jailhouse, everywhere. Kind of so to the juvenile justice centers, dealing with young adults and young folks. Once you get a little taste of that, it keeps going. So you got to get involved with your schools, community groups, business leaders, all of that stuff. So we got to make sure that folks aren't just, piping up when there's something bad going on, but when something good's going on as well. And also, speak out in your community. I know that's hard to do. A lot of folks, what's the saying? Oh, snitches get stitches.
Yep.
You hear that every 2 minutes.
Yep.
Somebody say, I'm not going to say no. And then you want to fuss at all of the elected officials. Why nothing's changing? Well, nothing's changing because, folks aren't talking. Folks aren't speaking up, in some cases. But I'll tell you who spoke up today. And all we're hearing about all over the news. I was so glad. I was just glad to hear this man's voice. Robert Mueller, you know, you're talking about